Hey, I'm Amy Chang. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach, and this is Healthy AF. In this podcast, I'll be bringing you all things health, from the newest health strategies to how to tackle those personal roadblocks that just will not let you move forward. So buckle in. We're going to be inspired and instructed, and dadgum, we're going to have a little fun on Healthy AF. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Healthy AF. It's another episode of Friendsgiving. I'm so excited for these episodes because I've just gotten to gather up all my friends, all my powerful people, all the people in my life who continually have the kinds of conversations with me that move us both forward and set us in a place of empowerment. And I'm delighted to share those with y'all this season of Friendsgiving. So please welcome Chakema Clinton-Quintana. Did I say that right? Quintana?
Chakema Clinton-Quintana.
Quintana.
It's like La Quinta Inn.
La Quinta Inn. I love that.
Nice little example, right? The hotel of all things. But
I know I need something to hook on to, though, because
right.
like language, most of the time I have to write it down.
Yeah. Well, my mother-in-law made sure that I understood that my last name was not pronounced Quintana. At my wedding, it was Quintana. So Quintana. Yeah.
Quintana. I love that. Thank you. And by the way, this is pretty indicative of conversations that Chakema and I have. I'm like, now what am I doing and how do I do that? And she's like, girl, come here. Let me help you.
Yeah. We love our conversations.
Yes, for sure. Chakema, tell our listeners a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, who you are for me. Just introduce us to you.
Well, this is me. I'm Chakema Clinton-Quintana. I am the director for a channel powered by Live Oak Bank. And what that means is that I lead an initiative that we started about 3 years ago, creating a state-of-the-art co-working space designed to help small business owners start and grow their businesses and scale through ideation, job creation, resources that we have to offer, just a host of things, which you can find out more about that at www.liveoakchannel.com. Not Chanel, but channel. So www.liveoakchannel.com. And you can see all of the resources and available things for our small business owners and entrepreneurs here in the Wilmington area. And those items are available for free. Those are resources available to you for free if you become a member of Channel, which is also free.
Yeah, I love that. When I first moved here to Wilmington, not only was my business in sort of a restarting phase, but I was in a restarting phase, and it was hard. And I was looking for my people. And somebody said, well, you can go to Channel. They've got a co-working space. And I was like, what? And they said, minority business owners. And I was like, do I fit into that? And they were like,
when you asked.
So, and I was so delighted to come. And it's just such Lynn, and we'll put links in the show notes. But Lynn has done such a beautiful job arranging Channel so that there's private spaces, there's open spaces, there's couch spaces, the podcast room is there, and just for it to all be for free. And then you add on having you and Atiba there, the hospitality and the graciousness factor is through the roof, and also the accountability and guidance factor is through the roof. So, it was such a cornerstone in my move to Wilmington. I'm so glad I walked up in there and said, like, hey.
And you got this great big hug from me.
I did.
So we opened our doors November 15th of 2021. In fact, in a few days, we'll celebrate 3 full years and going into our 4th year. So when I opened our doors, it was very, it was just a open space. There was so much dust and brick wall, and it had no character or, anything, just nothing. And so I worked with the, construction folks to just like create our walls, our offices. We didn't want it to look like a bank. And that was the whole idea, was to design it with the architects to make sure that it was comfortable, and it did offer some, great space, but also space to host some of our educational content.
Now, how did you get that job?
Well, I worked hard for it. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Question up. Let me back that question up. What in you made it a purpose? Because it's clearly a purpose for you. What in you made it a purpose to fulfill? Because I know it's almost like not why Live Oak Bank chose you. Why did you choose this?
Well, honestly, I'm going to take it back just a few steps, because Live Oak did choose me, but then I had to choose them also, right? We all have the opportunity for choices. And I think sometimes we forget that, it's like, they sought after me, so recruited me from LinkedIn, from another bank. And I had to choose to have a conversation with them, right? So they chose me, and then I chose them. And then we went back and forth about, like, during the interview process. I had 4 interviews before Live Oak offered me the role of compliance officer, because I was a compliance officer at my other bank. And great role. I actually thought that compliance was my first love, which I knew it wasn't, because I kept telling my husband for years, we're not supposed to be here. We're supposed to be somewhere else. And he said, where is somewhere else? And Amy, I kept saying, living near the water, eating off the land, and helping people. And he was like, But in your soul, in your mind, in your spirit, in your heart, when you know that you're supposed to be somewhere else, you know that. And so after COVID and the murder of George Floyd, I was walking around the bank. I had moved to Wilmington, was enjoying the beach life. I wasn't concerned about anything else, was going to work, coming home, and going to the beach on the weekends and getting my family down so we can sit at the water. I'm not a swimmer, by the way, and that's crazy. I know I live at the beach. I should be able to swim, but I'm not. It's on the bucket list, though. But all I wanted to do was just, have peace and happiness, but something still wasn't sitting right with me. I still had this urge to volunteer and do things. So I did. I started volunteering, and Live Oak is really good about encouraging all of their employees to volunteer. Well, after that, the whole debacle with, COVID and everything, Live Oak wanted to give more back to the community. And this idea came about of creating a resource center for minority small business owners. And so with that, everyone had to apply who wanted to be a part of that initiative. And so I applied with several other people, and I managed to get the job. And I think one of the things that probably stood out most, I later learned, was that there was no fear in doing something that did not have a blueprint. So while it was an idea, not many people thought about like what this would look like in the future. Like some of us had that vision, right? And I talked about it. I wanted to go all over, but you think big or you go home, So I'm always thinking big. Yeah, I could see this all over the U.S. We could do great things. And so therefore we opened Channel. I got the job. I worked hard. The first year was just getting everyone to really learn who Channel was, who Live Oak was, and what we were doing, and really understanding that it was for free. Because let's be honest, you try to give people something for free, they're like, "What's the catch?"
Yep.
You know, there is no such thing as anything for free. There's something you're gonna take this away from me, or you're gonna make me pay eventually, and that wasn't the case. And so, again, 3 years running, we have been a free resource for the Wilmington small business community, along with the coalition. And the reality of it is we are the number one ecosystem here in the U.S. for cities 300,000 or smaller. So
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. Tell me about I'm having a hot flash, full disclosure. I'm just
turn that fan on, girl. We can't be hot. That's why I'm in short sleeves.
I'm having such a flash. I want to know more about the coalition. How did that come about? What does that do? How does that? Oh, that's so much better. How does that function? What's going on with that?
Well, it's just a group of us, and I'm going to dumb it down a little bit. It's a group of us that are similar in some of the works that we do. We all have something that we do. So you're Cape Fear Community College, you're YWCA, Genesis Block, Channel, the CIE, which is the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, the SBDTC, all of those are with the UNCW, Small Business Development Technical Center. Who else am I missing? SCORE. And I'm probably missing someone, so don't hold it against me. But we all work together because the goal is to help the small business owner find the resources that they need to stand their business up and grow and scale their business. And so, whereas Genesis Block does focus on Block Eats and a few of the Jumpstart program and so forth, Channel is more centered around, we don't turn anyone away. Everyone is welcome. We want you to find those resources. We want you to become bankable. And by bankable, I mean you're opening a business checking account, a business savings account. You get to a point where your credit score is well enough to where you can get a loan for your business, whether that's through Live Oak Bank or a CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution. But that's what the coalition does. We each have something that we really specialize in to help those small business owners. That was, again, really dumbing it down so that no one.
I'm super glad you dumbed it down, because even the dumbed down version, for me gets a little overwhelming, because I'm like, because in my mind, that whole thing. Okay, so it is Friendsgiving, so I do have some questions about, like, who are you and why are you so awesome, and why am I so awesome, and why are the conversations we have this is one of my challenges, that I have a big idea. What I have not had in the past that I'm growing is the patience to cultivate, nourish, not live in the grind, and be with that big idea as it, it's like that bamboo tree thing. You know how long they stay underground or something, and then as soon as it shoots, is gone.
Right.
That has been really hard for me, is having the patience that it just kind of takes when you're a committed business owner, and you might not know business, you know, and you might not know what to do. So,
well, I like to tell people, one of the things that we've been very encouraging about to small business owners is that I'd like for you to think about, like, what you went to school for. Or if you went to school for hair, if you went to school to be an RN, if you went to school to be a mechanic, you went to school to learn that specific thing, right? But they don't teach you how to run the business. And that's where a lot of business owners have had some trouble, because it's like, well, I went to school to do this, but I didn't know I had to do A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
Well, that's where Channel comes in. and the coalition, because now we can teach you all about the things that you need for business. For example, you need an accountant or a bookkeeper, and they are different. There's a difference. You needed someone to market your business because you don't know how to do that aside from a few short reels. And unless you have a teenager in your household, you don't know anything about social media. Or a grandchild who is of age that could tell you all about those things.
Yeah.
And I think Atiba said it best at Mogul. He was like, man, my son can get it done in a few minutes, whereas it takes me, maybe 2 or 3 days to do something.
And it's not even the time that it takes me that bothers me. It's the emotional energy I have to use to keep my shizzle together while I'm frustrated that I can't find the clicky dot that,
they're like, click the 3 dots at the top. And you're like, what 3 dots? I don't even see 3 dots. And those 3 dots are so daggone tiny that you're like, oh, those little tiny 3 dots at the top? Yes. I didn't see those.
It's like, I need my readers and a magnifying glass to see that, dadgum.
Yeah, I'm working with one contact lens in and one out. So, hey, it works for me. But when I'm looking for those 3 dots, you really got to look for them.
Yes. Yeah, it does. It's a totally, I'm glad that this is not my first business, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, my mom had a marketing business.
Oh, nice.
And she had McLeese Marketing in Winston-Salem. For those of you who don't know, Chakema and I both grew up in the same town. What? So that's
my hometown. Cool. You know that. Yeah.
It is your hometown?
It is. Yeah, I was born and raised out of Winston-Salem. Yeah. And then I left in 1998. Took my first husband and family. Well, he took us to Raleigh, North Carolina, and I lived in Raleigh until I was recruited to move here in Wilmington in 2019.
So now, I didn't really realize that we were both so new. You're pretty new to Wilmington.
I've been here. March will make 6 years.
6 years, pushing 6. And the channel was so new because when channel opened up, 6 months before I moved here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now I feel like I'm an old head here because I know so many people. I mean, let's
everybody.
Everybody. I thought Wilmington was huge, but it's really not. It's like it's smaller than you think, but it's a lovely, charming city with a little history.
It's got some history.
It's got some history. Yeah, It's history that I just at some point I hope that we can all get along and live together and get past the history. Like learn the history, but let's move forward.
So what do you think is, okay, so one thing that I love about you, love about channel, love about that mission is that we're growing people, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of your job, is to grow people who just happen to be business owners. And part of that, having that growth mindset.
Well, I like how you said grow people, but I don't like to look at it as growing people because they're going to be responsible for their own growth, right? Mm-hmm. But I look at it as trying, and I hate to use the word trying, so I will always say working on mindset. Because mindset is what needs to happen, right? The mindset, once you change your mindset, you can see the growth. And I speak about this book on every podcast, but it was the one that changed me. There are a lot of self-help books out there, but it was The Secret by Rhonda Byrne that changed my mindset. It was that book, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, that changed my mindset, that taught me how we bring things to ourselves in the universe, or the energy that we give out, and how we don't pull the things in or ask the universe correctly for what we want. Because, every time you do a vision board, you can put some stuff on that vision board. And man, if you don't put the right dates and the times and the things that you want, like you really want, because we can get those things, you can mess up. It's almost like saying, hey, God, I want a husband.
Yeah.
That could be detrimental.
That could be a bad thing.
You didn't tell God exactly what type or the universe, however you want to use it, it's up to you. But you didn't tell him what type of husband you want. You said you wanted a husband. So he sent you exactly what you asked for.
Yeah.
Just a husband. He didn't give you a loving husband. He didn't give you a father for the children. He didn't give you a husband that will clean up, that'll do laundry, that'll be a true partner for you. Like, you have to be careful about those things. So no different than you have to be careful about anything else that you ask for.
Don't you think that's having clarity, knowing yourself well enough and having some clarity
Absolutely.
on like what your truth is? I meet so many people who have not sat with themselves in so long, they literally have no idea what their truth is. And I think it changes too. Like my truth at 25,
honey, my truth at 25 is totally different than what it is at, 52. And I know I'm dating myself and I'm giving you guys my age, but I'm proud of it.
Proud of it, girl.
Look, I couldn't even wait to turn 40. And my girlfriend was like, honey, I'm 45. You just wait. You have a little bit of time. And I was like, no, I'm going to be 40 now. I know what I'm talking about. She was like, you don't know what you're talking about.
No. I said to my best friend one time, I said, gosh, at 50, I feel like I thought I knew shit at 40.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, God, I knew nothing. And I wonder if I'm going to turn around at 70 and be like, wow, I really did not know anything at 50. And she said to me, I hope we do. And that really said it to me like, okay, that's so right. I want to keep growing. I want to keep learning. I want to turn around at 70 and say like, wow, I've learned a lot over the 2 decades.
That's right.
I don't want it. This can't be as smart as I'll ever be.
Right. That part.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone else needs to understand. Like if you have a growth mindset, you're going to learn something every day. I pride myself on learning something new every day. It makes sense. Why would you not want to learn something?
Because when you learn something, sometimes what that means is you have to admit that you didn't know something or that you were wrong about something. And I love to be right. Yeah. When I have to admit that I was wrong about something, sometimes it does not feel real good.
I don't necessarily like to be right unless, I'm like, hey, hubby, I was right.
It happens.
No, I'm not that vain, I guess. I'm not calling you vain, but like,
oh, it's okay, girl. Lay it out.
If someone tells me something that I did wrong, I want to know I did it wrong so that I don't do it again. I don't want to cross that path of being wrong again for whatever reason. It could be, if you click this button, it's going to make the worst mistake ever on this spreadsheet. So you never want to click that button again. Yeah. Okay. If I make that mistake one time, I don't want to make it a second time. Right. I want to know what I'm doing. So, but I don't want to come across as like, yeah, such and such told me to press that button because it was going to make everything right. But also just because, again, it's a learning moment. And true leaders like to understand where they've made a mistake.
Agree.
And they can say, hey, I made a mistake.
Yep. And they can be with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that I have had plenty of learning opportunities in the last decade, at least. I think more than that. But but I never like to lose sight of how blinded I can become when I am too interested in being right, especially with someone that maybe I feel intimidated by, or I feel like they've wronged me. I really want them to be wrong.
Do you feel intimidated by people?
Oh gosh, yes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Why?
Oh, I think at the end of the day, deep down, and people ask me this all the time because they see Amy Chang as like confident and like out there. And I think at the end of the day, I have the same not good enough, don't mess up or you will be left behind buttons that a lot of us do. And I'm grateful to have had a lot of opportunities and a lot of resources to work on those.
Yeah.
And so they're not as loud. And I have a friend who's like, yeah, when you get that stinky thinking, like you don't have to cuddle it. I'm glad I can see it and go like, oh, that's me being not good enough.
Yeah.
That's me comparing.
Yeah.
And actually, that's not the way. And for me, I actually thank those thoughts because I know that's my little tiny, 4-year-old survival. Don't let the pack leave you behind.
Mm.
That's her trying to love me up and protect me. And I just say, hey, little Amy, thank you. And also, big Amy don't need that. So, but yeah, totally. I get intimidated all the time. Is that not something you, no? Yeah, I don't.
I maybe in my younger years, but in this time, in this space, and where I am today in my life, I'm not intimidated by other folks because one, what they've learned is what they've learned. And so me, I'm going to mooch off of them if I can. No, not mooch, but you know what I'm saying? I'm going to learn what I can from them if they're willing to share. And we talked about that again at MogulCon about gatekeeping. And that's one thing that I'm not. I'm not a gatekeeper. And what I mean by a gatekeeper is the gatekeeper of information.
Yeah.
I believe that we should always share that. I don't believe in shrinking myself when I walk into a room. I will not. And I don't believe that anyone should shrink themselves because of there's someone else that's, more knowledgeable, more powerful or whatever. Guess what? They put on their pants or a dress and shoes just like you put yours on. And so there's no secret to throwing on a pair of shoes and a pair of pants or a blouse or a blazer or whatever the case may be, so I'm not shrinking myself. If for some reason I didn't feel confident because I didn't wear a certain outfit this time, guess what? Next time I'll be greater.
Yeah.
Next time I will wear this. And I'm not ashamed to say something, what I do. I stood on stage Saturday and said, hey guys, I stepped outside of my comfort zone. I wore something a little sparkly today instead of wearing your typical business casual or business dress, Yeah. I want to show off a little bit. So
I loved what you wore, and I thought it was really appropriate and very fun. So let's just talk about MogulCon for a minute because
talk about MogulCon
because that was so much fun for me, and I was so grateful to be invited to be on the panel, and I was so grateful to be surrounded by so many growth mindset business owners / I'm thinking about a business and / I'm mentoring people like. Tell our listeners, please, because you can do this better than I can. What the hey is MogulCon and what happened on Saturday?
Well, first of all, let me just thank you for being a panelist because you were in your element and you did a phenomenal job. So I just want to put that out there.
Appreciate it.
And you gave really great points and some great advice. And I think we got great feedback on that panel as well. So thank you for being the wonderful person that you are and sharing your information with us. So MogulCon, so let's talk about MogulCon. So Dr. Felicia Phillips is the founder of MogulCon. She has a nonprofit organization called 1 Million Dreams Foundation. And she is the owner of a construction company. And so she's got her hands in a lot of things, but she is one amazing woman that is dedicated to helping businesses across the U.S. And so every year she puts on a huge event, which is called MogulCon. It is dedicated to Black-owned, women-owned businesses. So Atiba and myself were there. So I went to the first one, which was in Tennessee. She opted not to do it in Atlanta because there were so many people in Tennessee saying, come to Tennessee and do it. So that was my first time going to a MogulCon event.
When was that?
A year ago. So
okay.
Yeah, a year ago. So last year in 2023. So that was the big MoguLCon event. It was like a 3-day event. There was an award ceremony, there was a dinner, there's classes, all the things. So we didn't have to attend the first day. We attended the award ceremony and the dinner. And then the third day was like this fashion show and some other stuff. What we missed out on at this Mogul Summit event was the hot seat coaching, which I really wanted her to be able to do. And she is amazing.
I bet.
So MoguLCon was in Tennessee. I went to that and I was just like starstruck. Dr. Phillips was in this beautiful gown, and so was everyone else. They're all dressed up. There's a violinist who was playing hip hop music on the violin, which was so
my
dope.
gosh.
This was a female violinist. I'll have to look her up and send her to you.
I would love that. Yeah.
But she was just so amazing. And I think between that and just looking at so many women who had businesses, and listen, I'm not talking about just like a little teeny tiny business. I'm talking about thriving businesses. And that's what like filled my cup, was talking to them about how Live Oak could help them from a standpoint of lending, because we are all over the US. And them just talking about their businesses. There was a trade show we got to go to. And so that was still setting up our tables, but you walk to each of these businesses throughout this entire hotel space that was like the convention center rooms that they have. And they set up all these tables and things so you could talk to everyone. So that was Tennessee. That was MoguLCon. She was supposed to do a MoguLCon this year, but she opted not to. She took it on the road and called it the Mogul Summit Tour. And so she did quite a few cities, one, Atlanta, Chicago, a few others. And then she called me up. Well, when we were in Atlanta, she said, I want to bring this to Wilmington. Atiba and I both sat on the panel. And so I looked at her and I thought, Wilmington? Yeah, let's do it. So of course, it's not that I didn't think she would, but I didn't think she would. And she called me. She was like, I'm ready to come to Wilmington. And I'm like, oh, let's start planning. Let's go. So we started our planning, but I told her, I said, Wilmington's a little bit different. Our small business owners are not going to pay. We can't do a $147 ticket for a Mogul Summit. You know, that's in Atlanta. They believe investing in themselves.
Yes.
Right? Chicago, they'll invest in themselves. But for some reason, we don't have the right mindset. Not all of us has the right mindset in Wilmington. And I know you know this because you just recently did a summit prior to, and I think your tickets were $25. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're right. I had the most interesting conversation with somebody yesterday who is looking at a career change, and she's thinking about going into coaching. And so she just wanted to call me like, hey, what's it like? So of course I'm talking to her about like, well, just remember, depending on how you want to go, you're also a business owner. And that is something to, really explore. Do you want to do that? Do you just want to be an employee? If you want to be an employee, what does that mean? Blah, blah, blah. We're having that whole conversation. And then I say to her, yeah. And I think actually this year I am making a profit if you don't count my coach that I pay $9,000 a year for. And you could hear her
Really
like
gasp
out of the seat.
Right.
And I said, listen, I believe in coaching. I pour into me. I can tell you, I've sat in sessions with me when I am being coached and then coaching people. I've sat in sessions with me when I'm not being coached and then I'm coaching people. I'm a better coach when I'm being coached. I'm a happier coach. I'm a more balanced coach. I'm a more like all the things I stand for. And it doesn't make much sense to me to tell you that it's an urgent need for you to get a coach if I'm not getting my own coach.
That's right.
That's some poopy stink right there.
Yeah.
So
you have to, we as business owners have to invest in ourselves. I mean, Atiba and I have been coached with Dr. Phillips. You can probably tell that in the way that we work with everyone. I think my personality also works well with the things that I've learned working with her that we're also able to share with you all. And so we do that. But I believe that our $75 ticket price was still not a price that people were willing to pay. I'm sorry about that noise. That was Sativa who dropped something, but that people were not willing to pay. And so some of those people really missed out on such a phenomenal event. And I just cannot stress that any more than I've stressed it here. When you invest in yourselves, you get a little something different than what's just available for free, right? People offer you something, that extra step. But I'm going to work on bringing her back in 2025 in person for some. There'll probably be only 25 seats at the most. And we're going to do a few days of a business strategy sessions, and this is stuff that people pay an arm and a leg for. So there will still be a small investment that the business owner will have to invest, but I'll do my best to cover as much as that as possible, but only 25 seats. And it's going to be only the 25 that are truly working their business and need that and deserve that coaching.
I mean, we touched on this Saturday when, you had really good questions for our like health and wellness business owner panel. And what kept just coming up and coming up and coming up is that idea of when you do not invest in you, you don't perform well.
That's right.
And I see it everywhere, myself included, that, when I am driving my car and I'm not changing the oil and I'm not putting in the gas and I'm not rotating the tires, then I can't be surprised why it's so damn hard to get from point A to point B.
That's right.
Because I broke down 3 times and I had to, dude, take care of your stuff, keep your stuff in working order, and your most important stuff right here. It's you.
That's right. I love that panel so much because it is a reminder to us all of, did you change the oil? Did you rotate the tires? Did you get some sleep?
Yeah.
We are so busy that it's easy for us to say, no, I'm going to burn the midnight oil. And I'm going to speak for myself. Let me just speak for myself because I don't want to speak for everyone. It is so easy for me to say, I'm going to burn the midnight oil and I'll stay up till 2, maybe 3, and I'll get an energy drink tomorrow morning and it'll wake me back up and I'll keep going, right? But eventually that fuel runs out of the car.
Yeah.
It runs out because I did not refuel. I put some basic, 87 gas.
Leaded. You put leaded in
93 and that Beamer, and I chose to put 87 in there. So guess what? That's why it's acting the way it's acting. That's why I won't remember everything. That's why I'm skipping, events. That's why I can't focus. That's why I wake up at 3 a.m. and I'm like, why is all these things downloading from my brain now? Because I wasn't taking care of me.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's been there. And you both know that I'm, not struggling, but there's a lot on these shoulders right now. We lost my father-in-law last Sunday, but I still smiled through it as we went through Mogul. My mom is sick with pancreatic cancer. And, I'm still dealing with that. Doctors gave her till September. And guess what? It's November. And I'm like, sit down, doctors, have several seats. She's still here.
So let me ask you that, like, how are you dealing with uncontrollable, unchangeable life? And not ignoring it or pushing it down or stuffing it.
Right.
I know you're not pushing down because we've talked about it.
That's right.
What advice would you give to someone else whose life is currently being very lifey?
Yeah.
what would you tell them about how to manage all that?
So, first of all, acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
Just call it to the forefront. Call the thing that it is. It's that life is lifing.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to cry, cry. Because you can't stop the tears when they come. Just go ahead and let them come. And then, dry your eyes and then take the next step forward. Every day is a step forward. I will also say that it takes time. So, I lost my grandmother 2 years ago. Shortly after that, I lost my little cousin, which was my grandmother's sixth grandchild. It's my uncle's son. Unexpectedly, I had a friend that was shot to death and left in a park to die, and he did die. He's actually a distant cousin, but we had such a great friendship. Then, I learned this about my mom in last December. But here's the thing: there are some things that are going to happen. For example, the friend that was left for death in the park that was shot. Right? That's out of my control, but it happened. Shocker, no doubt. Cousin that committed suicide, or not intentionally, he overdosed on drugs. Those things were not scheduled to happen, not in my book. So those are shockers. Yes, they knock you down, but you have to get back up, right? But my grandmother passing away, my mom being sick, losing my father-in-law last week, those are things that are part of what I like to call life's transitions, full of life. We all have a date. We're all going to die at some point. So, for me, it is understanding the circle of life and how that goes, and just understanding that it's okay. It's really okay. Now, y'all, I'm not going to sit here and say, 2 days from now, I might be in tears. I might not.
Yeah.
I might still smile through it. There was a time 2 months ago, you couldn't have asked me how my mom was doing without me tearing up. And now I'm sitting on camera just like, she's fine. Let me tell y'all, she's spicy as ever. I hope she hears this podcast. She is spicy. You wouldn't know it if you didn't know, but she's spicy.
No, it sounds like you've got a lot of acceptance.
Yeah,
I think that's the key.
Yeah, and the understanding. And my final thing is that I just believe in one breathing. Hence the tattoo on my forearm that says inhale, heart, exhale, but just breathing. But also, I give myself one day to be down. We have a history of depression in our family, and I don't want to be there. And so I'll give myself a day to just, if I'm down and life has beat me down, take the day, cry through it, have a glass of wine, whatever is your thing to get over it. But the next day, I got to be up and running. I got to be right back in the thick of it. And that's what works for me.
I do that too. I give myself a timeline. And I'm telling you, during the end of my marriage, during the death of my dad, I just say to my, when it got too big, like you're handling it, you're like, I know I'm okay, and I don't like this, and I'm moving forward. And then that one day, it's just like, whoosh, I would just
it rains, it pours.
Yes, I would just say to myself, like, okay, what do you think you need? Do you need 36 hours? Do you need 48? Do you need 24? What is it?
Do you need a week's vacation? Like, ask yourself those things. Yeah.
And most of the time, if I would just give myself the permission, and for me, you and I have talked about how defiant I get, right? When I feel like I have choice, Amy, you can choose to just wallow in it.
Yeah.
As soon as I give myself that permission to choose, I'll do whatever wallowing I need to do. And then I'm like, this shoe don't fit anymore. And I'll take that down. Usually I'm done before my like allotted time has run out. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
have I don't think I've ever given myself a wallow in it time
Hmm.
and needed more time.
Yeah.
Usually I'm done with that then.
I think I did do 2 days within the last 6 months, which was weird to me because I was like, oh wow, um, you did longer than a day. That thing is still bothering you. But I would say to that, don't be afraid when it goes over what you normally would allot that time for. I think you have to be careful when it goes like really over. Like
Oh
for
yeah,
me,
totally.
yeah, if I was still waddling in something, a week or 2 weeks later, then I need to really question myself, like what's really going on,
Well, and for me, it's I need to not question myself. I need to call a friend because I'm the problem. And if I'm
Well,
looking for
yeah.
me to give me answers about me, it is like bad neighborhood out of there, get out.
Do you
Yeah.
think so I think I'm really good at self-checking, like for myself, like if I get upset or if I'm annoyed about something, whatever the case may be, I can ask myself that question, like, what's going on? What's wrong? And so I can answer that. But when I can't, you're right. I would need to call someone else or give someone else that situation to say, hey, what's going on? Do you think I'm right here or I'm wrong? Or why do you think I feel this way? Because someone else on the outside looking in can
Yeah.
help, right? At
Well,
times.
and for me too, I'm really actually, I'm an external processor, so I talk things through anyway. So when I
Mhm.
have something sitting on me, expressing it verbally is a really good, even if I'm just by myself in the kitchen, right?
Mhm.
Um, but what I've noticed is even though I'm pretty good at coaching myself,
Mhm.
I do tend to isolate.
Hmm.
I tend to isolate. And Shakema, I mean, I'm a single lady who lives I live with my oldest daughter, and
Mhm.
also that's sort of by yourself.
Yeah.
It's not 100% by yourself, but I am partnerless.
Yeah.
I'm roommate peer less,
Yeah.
and I own a business where I work for myself by myself. So it's very easy for me to just hole up.
Do you
And,
think you're an introvert or an extrovert?
I think I'm a blend.
Yeah.
I love people, and I was even thinking about MogulCon, by the way, because I'm going to say this on the line, and I hope it's not offensive, and it might be. I was so pleased and so honored to be with a group that was primarily African American people
Hmm.
and be chosen to be in that group.
Yeah.
It was just it was a moment for me that was like, I have made it. I have made it.
And I chose you one because of your background, but two, from day one since I met you, you have been, an advocate for African American people. And that speaks volumes to me. Um, and you and we don't know each other's political background, and I've never asked you, and I don't want to know. But even if you were whatever you chose to be, it wouldn't matter to me because I know that you are a true advocate, you're a genuine person, and that we would feel safe around you.
Gosh,
Yeah. I
that
mean, you
very.
might come out of your mouth kind of crazy sometimes, but that's like our conversation, and we
Yeah.
can talk like that. And I tell anyone, like, I don't get offended easily. I don't get offended easily, and I think that's what makes it so easy for people to be able to talk with me.
Yeah.
um, and I'm okay with that. Like, so any question that people have, like, you've come to me
Oh,
like,
I've asked
I want to ask
many
you this.
questions that,
Right.
like my children who are not 100% white, right? My
That's
children
right.
are like, I can't believe you. And I'm like, I needed to know. I was having a moment of ignorance. I need to have somewhere I can go and say, like, hey, I'm not sure about this. And this might even be just offensive me saying it. And I don't understand this. Please help me.
But you put the disclaimer out there, if you will. We'll call it a disclaimer because I have friends that say that too. And they, I have a guy friend who said, hey, at the time, I think he was 50 something years old. I'm a 50 something year old white guy. And I got a question. And I was like, hey, well, I'm a 47-year-old black girl with black girl magic. So let's go for it, And, but that was my way of teasing him with putting the disclaimer out there to say, well, let's just answer the question. I'm not going to get offended. I don't wear my feelings on my sleeve. And I think when we, allow people to ask the questions, so that we can learn, we can become a more inclusive, environment, or community for people to live in, right?
Yeah.
We're not looking at what political race they're in, or going for, or whatever. My thing is, do I feel safe around this person?
Yeah.
Do we have some similar views? We may not agree on everything. I know a lot of people are deleting people off of Facebook now because they've looked up people and said, oh, they voted for this person, or they voted for that person. And that's their choice. I'm not deleting anyone. I welcome the conversations, actually, to know, or to have the conversation of, so why did you choose whoever or whatever? If we happen to get in that conversation, I
was going to say, I heard the other day in a meeting, the acronym WAIT, and it stands for Why Am I Talking?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that that's priceless, because the conversations that I welcome are the ones where someone has asked me a question and they really want to learn what it is I think or believe.
Right.
Or I have asked them a question and I really do want to learn. Like, why does your hair work like that? Help me,
You mean when you asked me about my hair?
I need to know how this works, okay?
Yes.
But when it's really a sharing, what I'm not interested in, and I don't even call it a conversation, is when one person is screaming their opinion for the sake of screaming it.
Yeah.
And or convincing me, selling me on something, and I'm screaming back. No time. I don't have any time, or that's not a conversation that I want to be in. And I've never found that inside the conversations we've had.
Yeah.
So that, I agree, that creates this safety net.
Yeah.
Where we can have some conversations that might be tender or triggering. You could trigger me easily. You bring up the right subject and this girl gets triggered.
Oh, gosh.
But I'll stay in it with you because I trust you. And I think that's what I was going to say about MogulCon. I felt so honored and I felt so comfortable in that environment. And yet, I noticed that I needed to stand up. I think that was probably a little bit of the ADD, but also a little bit of I just need to be having my own space and quiet. And I went outside a lot during the breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do love people, and I love and feel energized by people. And also there are times when I'm like, oh, I need a bubble. And I just need a little bit of my own, I'm just going to go stand over here in the corner because I need some space to breathe. So, yeah, I think I'm both introverted and extroverted all at the same mishmash time.
Well, you didn't seem introverted at MogulCon. In fact, like I said, people spoke out and spoke very well about the panel and the information that you and the panel gave. And in fact, I was talking about it with my twin sister this morning, about the great advice that you guys had given. And I'm not recapping it because you had to be there. And if you weren't, you missed a great treat. So sorry.
Next time.
Yeah, get on next time. Get on the bus. We're headed there. Again, look for that in 2025. It's their 10-year anniversary if you're trying to go to MogulCon. Short little commercial break there. So, yeah, you were there and we loved having you. Appreciate you for that. And thank you for not being the introvert at that time, but being the extrovert. And yeah, so MoguCon, definitely bringing it back. It's their 10-year anniversary next year. Don't know if it'll be in Wilmington, but she is coming back for some pointed courses and classes for Channel. So
Cool.
you'll be a part of that, get to work with Dr. Phillips.
Oh, I can't wait, because you could tell when she was moderating,
Yes.
like she don't play.
Nope.
And I love that. It's that accountability.
Yes.
I had one of after my segment and the next segment, before we ate, I went to the ladies' room, and somebody in the ladies' room was like, I loved what you said. When you said to that lady, can I be honest? Really honest?
They knew it was ready to get good.
She was, and that you can smell that.
Yeah.
On Dr. Phillips, man. She's not playing with you, and she's going to lift you up, but we're not going to play. And I really appreciate, and I think that's what you bring. That to me is who you are. That you're going to be honest, you're going to be straightforward, and you're going to be loving and compassionate.
That's right. Every single time, that is me. And thank you for wrapping that up in a cute little bow, because I don't always like to brag on myself as far as that's concerned. Atiba calls me, oh, you're too nice. And I'm like, there's just a way that you do things, right? And I've been that person. I've been the person that gets knocked down by someone else and people aren't nice, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just, I guess it's like the old adage says, treat people the way you want to be treated. And that's me. Mm-hmm. I don't need to be rude. I am petty, though. I can be really petty.
You can be really petty. Well, I can be really vain, apparently. So we're not.
What makes us a great friendship. Okay.
I know, right?
Vain and petty.
I love it. Well, shoot, you got to have some fault. I actually said to my Sunday school class this Sunday, I'm like, I have a friend who, when I started this really stinky behavioral pattern, which kind of, I get to working too hard. And when I get to working too hard, my relationships just fall by the wayside. They just, they get no attention.
That's what happens in entrepreneurship, though. You do know that, right?
I do. And I'm suited for that because that's how I roll. And I really work hard to balance that. And so I said to him one day, I'm like, yeah, I know I haven't been around. And he said, oh, no, I know that this is your pattern. He said, and I've decided that you're worth it. And it was the first time in my literally 51 years on this planet that I actually got it, that with my faults, I'm still worthy of keeping around.
Yeah.
And that people see my faults and they still love me. See, I thought that I had just been hiding them. Mm-hmm. And that if you actually saw it, you would ditch me. But that is not true. Everybody be seeing my faults.
But you know what? Those are the people that we love, right? Yeah. The people who we know what we're getting.
Yeah.
We know their faults. We know they're good, the bad. We know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so because we know the good, the bad, and the ugly, we're willing to keep them as friends because they have already shown us their true colors. They showed them in the beginning, or they told us, this is who I am. Yep. You can take it or you can leave it. You know what I mean? And so when you get those people, I encourage you to keep them also, because those are the ones that you want to keep. It's the new ones that hide the good, the bad, and the ugly. Those are the ones that you want to stay away from.
Yeah, that's for sure. I would rather just like get naked in front of me, man. I just want to see it,
You know that's on my wall, right? I got that on a wall somewhere. I'm not going to tell you.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's on a wall somewhere.
We really are sisters from the same hometown and another mom.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I know. Well, anything else you want to say before we wrap? Like any other 90-second anything you would want someone to leave this podcast knowing?
I think I would always say to anyone, always be yourself, be true to yourself. Don't shrink yourself for anyone. If someone is annoyed because you're the best at whatever that you do, continue to shine bright And as I always say, shine so bright that you let them burn where they stand. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much.
You
I
are so
really
welcome.
appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, Amy. I love you.
Oh, I love you back. If you have loved this podcast, please feel free to like it, subscribe to it, share it with a friend, share it with someone you don't like who maybe you want to put some love on. Give yourself some grace. Keep growing up, and we'll see you next time on Healthy AF. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Healthy AF podcast. I hope that it has helped you create a new possibility for your health and sets you into action to go get it. If you want more information or if you want to connect with me, visit my website at myhealthylife.coach. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that each new Healthy AF episode will be sent directly to you. Let's take you from where you are to where you want to go.